Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of What's Happening. I'm George Binns, and I'm here with my co-host, Elliot Margolis. And tonight we want to get into the issue of Internet advertising and answer the questions about why do those little things keep popping up and where do they come from? And we have with us tonight a local small business operator, Kevin Roy, who is the co-founder of Green Bananna SEO.
Thanks for having me.
Let's start off with what's an SEO?
Well, SEO is search engine optimization, and it's the process of optimizing your website so that it appears on a Google search for the keywords that you wanted it to appear for.
So when you're doing advertising, what are you optimizing on?
So I think that it depends on the products or services that the client wants to be known for. So if you're a pizza shop in Beverly, it's better to be optimized, for pizza in Beverly than some obscure name, right? So you really want to figure out what keywords drive the most business into the client, how to get their page optimized so when people type it into a Google search, their site appears on page one.
Well, Elliot runs a small business.
I used to. I mean, now it's a little different. But
Yeah.
yeah,
You're dealing in sportswear.
sportswear.
Yeah. What would he need to do, or how would he could set up an operation?
It's a local company?
No, I'm actually a manufacturer's rep for a company in North Carolina.
Okay.
But I sell to local people,
Right.
and basically what I'd be looking for is brand awareness, so that people would go into a place like Todd Sporting Goods and say, I want Badger sportswear.
Okay. So there's a couple ways for that. Search engine optimization, the Badger Sportswear, the certain things that Badger Sportswear is, right? So what is Badger Sportswear? Is it t-shirts, football jerseys?
Keep going.
Right,
It's
so-
T-shirts, it's football, it's all kinds of athletic uniforms, it's sweatshirts, it's athletic wear.
So for search engine optimization, you'd want to optimize your site for those. The other thing that you can do when you talked about the little ads that follow us around everywhere, if you want to do a branding campaign just targeted towards either the manufacturers or the people that you want to come in and buy the products, you can advertise your ads on websites that your consumers would go to, right? So if you want to sell uniforms to high school athletes, we can put ads on sites that are targeted or visited by 14 to 18-year-old people that play sports, or you can be specific and say if anyone's searching for soccer uniform, we can follow them around the internet based on their search pattern behavior and show the ads on any site that they go to after they do a search. So there's an amazing amount of data that we have that you can be hyper-targeted in your ads.
So you actually follow what people are looking at. Sounds like the NSA to me.
It is a frightening amount of data that, if you really think about how you behave on the internet, you go to certain sites. I know where you are based on your IP address. That you can infer your location. You can infer general income status based on your zip code. We know your search pattern of behavior. So what things you like, what things you don't like, what sites you spend a lot of time on. If you're in a closed system like Facebook, you know a lot more. What you like, what your friends like, how old you are, when your birthday is, what posts you thought were interesting, what posts your friends thought were interesting, what things that your friends did that you thought were interesting. And all that data is aggregated, and you can use that to advertise based on.
Big Brother is watching
I mean, I'm thinking 1984 here.
Oh, yeah.
Well,
one of the things that gets me is every so often I'll go on Amazon and I'll go looking for some product. And in fact, a couple of years ago, I was interested in buying another vacuum cleaner. Okay. And I searched half a dozen websites, and I eventually bought one from Amazon. But to this day, every so often, I'll see in the little right-hand corner, that same vacuum cleaner keeps popping up that Amazon is still trying to sell it to me. So I guess that's one of the questions I have. Why don't these go away when you buy the product, or after a while say, no interest,
Right.
we give up.
So they should go away. So
Yeah.
there's what you're being targeted through what's called retargeting. So Amazon will see that you've gone and looked at a specific vacuum cleaner, and they're going to put a cookie on your website. They're going to say, George has been looking for this vacuum cleaner, so we're going to bug him wherever he goes on the internet until he buys it. Now, they should put what's called a cancellation cookie when you buy it, that they'll stop selling you that ad. So my guess is that you're being served an ad from somebody else, because Amazon's really good about this. And that
What do you mean good about this?
they're usually good about putting the cancellation cookie in,
Okay.
because they know that they don't want to spend. They're spending money on you when you're not going to buy something.
Yeah.
So you may have gone to another website that isn't as savvy, or you may have gone to look at vacuum cleaners again, and that you're being targeted. But you shouldn't be retargeted with that ad by now.
Okay, but suppose you go to Amazon and look for the vacuum cleaner, and then end up going to a brick and mortar store to go buy it.
It should cancel after 30 days. So the typical run rate for digital ads are about 30 days. So you can do longer run rates, but the data isn't as good after that long. So I'd be surprised that years later you're still being targeted, unless someone is spending money retargeting you and wasting money, or you're searching for vacuum bags or vacuum cleaners again, right?
Well, that leads to another question, is it? On my computer, there's a thing I can go into and cancel all the cookies. Will this clean out all this stuff?
Yep.
So there's no way they can override my canceling the cookies?
Outside of private forums like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, but in the general internet, they wouldn't be able to see you anymore if you cancel your cookies, if you cleared them out.
Okay. Yeah, because every time I do that, I have to restart the bank account and all the rest of them.
Right.
Because some of the cookies are absolutely useful kinds of things. Yeah.
Right.
Because the bank account
Okay.
won't recognize me unless I
Tell me how you make a living doing this.
So we make a living so Green Banana does 4 things. Our main, what we were founded on is our search engine optimization. What makes us unique is that if we get people ranked on page 1 of a Google search, they pay. If we don't get them ranked, they don't pay. We don't guarantee page 1 placement. We just guarantee that if we can't do it, you don't have to pay us. With the evolution of social media, the proliferation of cell phones, where ads are popping up ahead of organic searches, and people are starting to make purchasing decisions based on their social interactions, we've started to do those behavioral ads. So all those annoying ads that you see all over the place, we manage those for people. And Google AdWords, we do a significant amount of AdWords. We're a Google certified partner. How we make money is we get a percentage of people's spend. With search engine optimization, we make money if we get people ranked on page 1. The 4th thing we do is we build websites, but we don't advertise it because we're typically doing 10 to 12 websites a month without advertising, and that's really our capacity.
So suppose I'm getting kind of cranky with all the different ads, and I say, I really don't want these things. Is there a way to not get the ads?
Well, you can clear your cookies, right? Like George has suggested, and not get specific ads, but it's almost the price of doing business on the internet. So a lot of these websites exist by making money having ads run there. Like you go to the Salem News or Boston.com. They're making money from all those ads that you see placed all over the website. So if you don't want to see them anymore, you can't go to that website anymore. Right? So it's like watching TV without advertising.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a good analogy.
So if you clear your cookies, you're not going to see ones that are germane to you. You're going to see ones, probably the big stock ones like AT&T and Target, and the big brands that just push ads to everybody.
Yeah.
See, I'm not a shopper online. My wife is,
Yeah.
but we have separate computers. So
Right.
I'm not a shopper online. I'm a brick and mortar person.
Right. So if you go on to, like tonight, go on to CNN. Look at her webpage on CNN on her computer. Look at it on your computer. The ads will be different.
Interesting. Probably do it on Fox News, though.
Yeah, go to any site, right?
Yeah.
Go to any site, and you're going to see that.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I guess the question is, how refined can you target somebody?
So it depends on where you're targeting them. So if you're in a closed capsule like Facebook,
Yeah.
it's very refined because the amount of data that we have about people is all known to Facebook. If you're out on the general internet,
Doing a regular Google search on Firefox
right,
or something like that.
Right. They say that it's refined, and it's very. There's a lot of data, but in my opinion, a lot of it's inferred rather than absolutely direct. On Facebook, LinkedIn, Pinterest, Instagram, it's all direct because you have logins and people are in there. You know all their information. On the general internet, I believe that it's inferred, but there's a lot of scientific data that backs people that live in, this zip code in Manchester generally make about this much, right? They can still tell basically how old you are. They can tell based on your search patterns. If you're looking for outdoor things, you're more apt to buy a rake or a shovel, right? So there's a lot of data that people compile together. I think it's in general web. I think it's more inference than absolutely specific.
Do you do these correlations, or does...
We study the behavior of the data that's given to us. We don't build that data. We look at...
well, who builds the data then?
Well, like Facebook will build the data,
okay.
right?
So you subscribe to Facebook as a...
Right, as an advertise on
advertiser,
Facebook.
and
right.
they give you
Yep.
characteristics of a certain area.
Yep. Say, I just want to show this ad to 45 to 65-year-old women who are married, who have a joint income of $150,000 a year that live in Nebraska, and you can show that. The rest of the data that we get from the general internet, there's something called a DSP. DSPs are people that bid on placements for all those ads that you see. They aggregate that data and give it to us. And our job is to study the data that they send, but also to hook into people's into the analytics of people's websites, figure out what they want to have done, what we call their KPIs, their key performance indexes. So if let's say someone's an attorney and wants to get leads. People fill out a form, it goes to a thank you page, we put a cookie on that thank you page. And we go and look at their analytics and say, what caused people to get to that thank you page? Who are they? How do they behave on the internet? And how do we go find more of people that behave like that? So that's how you help increase sales, right? Or leads, by saying what pattern, what time of day, what publication, what device, what gender, what location, search pattern, or what keyword did they type in, cause more people to buy my stuff, and we're going to go serve ads towards that pattern. That's what people pay us for.
Mm.
Scary.
Yeah, it is pretty scary.
Because basically you can pretty much determine how people think. It seems.
Well, how people act on the internet.
Yeah.
There's a lot of...
Well, this is what advertising is all about.
Yeah.
Is how do you find a customer that's willing to spend money on your product?
Which is why newspaper advertising is going down.
Well, it's too generic. They just throw it out there to anybody that buys the paper.
Yeah.
And they had a thing over at the Salem News one time, and they flatly said, half of that paper has to be ads. If they don't have enough ads, they don't have that many pages.
Right.
So that's their ground rule. That's what it takes to finance the operation. And I would imagine there are similar rules for Facebook pages and all the rest of these things of how many hits do you have to have or how many ads do you have to have. And you go one step further and say, not only does he have to have an ad that shows up on this page, but it has to be a targeted ad that somebody who's more than likely to go out and spend money on this product.
Mm-hmm.
It's fascinating how you get all this information from people.
It's pretty neat, and it's only growing. Like the amount of information that we have now compared to what we had last year is is incredible.
And your database keeps growing. You get more and more people.
Yeah, and more companies are just studying the data and sending it back to people like us. So it's, it
Well,
really is.
now you get into the question of how do you handle really big data. You know Dane from the Y, the guy from does with the IBM stuff.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. He's working with Watson to do big data analytics.
Right.
At what stage of the game do you run out of computer power and you need to go to something like a Watson?
I mean, so we don't compile that data. Other people do it for us, and we read this. So we don't have the computing power or the manpower of something like IBM that can study that data. There are services that people like us subscribe to that just provide that data.
So there's another middleman between you and the data that's massaging it.
Right. So you can serve the ads effectively.
Yeah.
Right.
How do you know whether you got good data or not?
So I think the proof's in the pudding, right? So we have access to every single client's website, and really at the end of the day, and I think one of the reasons we've been successful is that we sit down with a client and say, well, what's your ultimate goal? Well, my goal is to, have more people buy flowers in my store, or my goal is to sell more beer koozies.
Yeah.
So they're not going to keep us on for that long if I keep saying, hey, look at all this aggregate data that I brought to you, and look at all the people that came to your website, and we got all these soccer moms in the Midwest to look at your stuff. If no one buys it, we're not going to retain business, right? So that's really where the proof is not having to try to convince your clients that the stuff works. It's for them to be convinced because they're seeing more people call, more people fill out leads, more people buy their products, more people test driving cars. So that's how you figure out if it works. At the end of the day, we have a hernia surgeon that we're doing work with, and while he's not an expert in Google Analytics, he knows that his appointments are booked out and his phone's ringing. So stuff's working.
Yeah.
That's how I think the proof's in the pudding. There's a lot of people that provide fake data or put a spin on data and sell that to people. And I think that a great way for local business people to weed it out is to say, how many people actually called me? How many people filled out a form? How much did my business increase from this?
So not only do you create the ad and monitor it, that it's being hit on, but you also monitor the results with the client that, you got the phone call, somebody walked in the store and put the money on the counter, or something equivalent to that.
It's harder to tell if people walked in the store. I'm one of my goals for next year is to figure out how to track foot traffic. And I think we can do it by monitoring the cell phone signals of people and put it into analytics. But I've read some stuff on it that seems very promising, but I still have to dig into it. So that would be nice but we can tell how many people called because all the click to calls on your phone, that's all trackable. There are trackable phone numbers. Getting people to do something on the website, that's very easy. It's, did they click this button? Did they go to this thank you page? Did they buy this product? So all that's trackable.
So can you tell if somebody walks into a store and puts their credit card into one of those readers?
I can't.
You can't tell what?
Not without feedback from the client.
Okay.
So I would have to have access to their CRM. We'd have to have access to their either their internal systems, and we'd have to aggregate that with our data.
Okay,
so they'd have to give us basically all their books. And people
so you can't get that from the bank where they. Okay, not yet.
No,
not yet anyway.
No.
Okay.
No.
Is it possible to be anonymous anymore?
On the internet, sure. Absolutely.
How can you be anonymous?
So you can be, all right, so I think it's possible to be moderately anonymous.
You got an IP address, they know you exist.
Right, So you can use private browsing, like Firefox is a private browsing. There's a lot of, you can use filters that will not save cookies on your website and remain fairly anonymous. But I think if it comes down to if the police or the FBI want to figure it out, they're going to figure it out, right? I think there's a certain level of anonymity that the general public can stay in, but if you're doing super bad stuff, people are going to figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, you don't need to worry. I'm not doing super bad.
No, that's
I
not.
wasn't asking for myself.
No, that's not what I meant. I'm just saying that I
I got a friend who's got. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I think if you want to be hyper private, then you have to be an expert computer whiz.
No, that's not going to happen.
No, we gotta
That's
get
not.
Paul.
That is not
We
me.
have to get Paul on the show to do that one. Yeah. There's some interesting guys that hang around the Y that do some really.
Yeah, Paul
Different.
does some really cool stustuff.
We had a discussion with him today about who knows what about who, but anyway.
So if I get one question would be, okay, so I have this business and I'd like to advertise it on the internet. How would I know to contact you?
Well, I mean, you could go to Green Banana, Google Green
But I
Banana,
get-
go to Green Banana SEO.
But being the computer neophyte that I am, why would I even think to go to Green Banana? I wouldn't know Green Banana exists.
Yeah, it's true.
So how do you find somebody like you?
Well, I mean, you can, if you don't want to search on the internet,
No, I mean, if I wanted to say, okay, I've got this business,
Okay, you want
I'd
to
like
create
to
an
advertise
ad.
it.
Do you put a search on Google, say, who's going to write
yeah,
an ad
internet,
for me?
Internet advertising. You can go to, if you're looking specifically for Google, Google advertises their partners on the internet. I get a lot of, while we do internet advertising for ourselves, but I do a lot of public speaking, so I get people through that. We work with a lot of other agencies that like either build websites, we have some radio stations that we work with, other traditional advertisers that don't do what we do. People come to them asking for stuff, so we do it for them, and we built a private label dashboard for them to say that they did all the work.
Interesting stuff that I never.
Oh, yeah. And the computer is amazing what happens to it and what these guys can make this thing do.
Yeah, that's what's kind of scary.
It gets a little scary at
Yeah.
times, but at the other half of the game is how do we do better at running a business? And the old idea of, okay, you put an ad in the paper, and I remember when I used to peddle papers, and Providence Day was, the Providence Journal was 100 pages thick,
Yeah.
because that was the day that all the ads were in for the coming Christmas season. And I got into a discussion with one of the guys at the Y who deals in candy. And his season starts with Halloween and runs through Easter.
Yep.
Well, what do you do after that? Do you shut the business down and wait till the next season? Or how do you keep things going? And I think what you're getting into is there are other options to attract clients. And how do you find them? And like you say, you get into the business from somebody who wants to write a plain old newspaper ad. And, oh yeah, we put a website down at the bottom of that newspaper ad to go click on it. Well, that's where I guess you guys come in and say that, okay, when you get to clicking on that website, something else pops up, or you get information about this individual and you can start targeting them.
Or
this kind of
right,
people.
we say the kind of people, and we're going to go find out where these people interact on the internet, and we're going to serve them ads. I think for a small business, I think while internet advertising is confusing, I think the great thing about it, that's, in my opinion, revolutionizing advertising, is that it's 100% accountable. So it's really hard to figure out how many people read your TV ad. It's really hard to tell how many people saw your truck commercial and bought it on TV. It's really hard to tell that all those people that drove by your billboard who bought a couch from your store.
Yeah.
When people get to your website, you can see who they are, what they're doing, where they came from, what ad they clicked on, how much you spent on them to get them there, and how much they bought.
Yeah.
So and all of that stuff is free. Google Analytics tells you everything. It's free to use, not super complicated to set up, and you can get it's a great. I think Google Analytics is a great equalizer. You can tell everything about any marketing campaign you're running. If it's not working, you can see it. If it's working, you can see it. And that's something powerful that small business owners can take back to the people that are managing their ads and saying, did this work? Show me.
When you're talking about a small business, what size kind of business you're talking about?
We have, flower shops and dentists and all the way up to publicly traded companies. So really all over.
Elliot, you could start setting up an ad with him.
Yep.
And eventually get to the point where you could become computer literate and have your wife do it for you. But at the same time, a one-man band, that's essentially what you are.
Right, I'm a one-man band, but how much? I mean, to set up an ad, and you say you get paid by how many hits or how much people spend. So, if I wanted to set up an ad, number one, how much does it cost to set the ad up?
So it depends. All right. So if you wanted to do a display ad, there's a creative fee. However, if you have your own creative or people that do it for you, there's no fee for that. And then putting your ad out on the internet, it's about $4.25 for 1,000 impressions if you wanted to do display ads. So
What do you mean by an impression?
how many people saw your ad?
Okay.
And I'm not talking about SEO or AdWords. I'm talking about specific, like when you see that ad on the top of CNN.
Yeah.
Right? We sell it for between $4 and $4.25. Mm-hmm. You get 1,000 views for that. Right? So you can spend a little bit of money or a lot of money based on that.
Okay.
But my recommendation, if you were going to do that, pick a specific product. Specific I think always works better on the internet. So T-shirt, it's going to be a tough game.
Yep.
Right? Medium black hockey T-shirt, a lot more specific. You're not going to sell as many, but it's going to be more targeted. So if you have like a one thing that's a niche or something that you'll make a lot of margin on, I would start with that.
Okay. In the next 30 seconds, because that's all the time I'm giving you, tell us whatever you'd like to say about your business or how people could get in touch with you.
You can go to greenbanannaseo.com. And we're in Beverly. We're in one of the Cummings properties that we're right up in between the Salem News and the Stronzi Brothers.
Yeah. 50 Dunham Road.
50 Dunham Road.
50 Dunham Road. Yeah.
We have 16 people. It's a really fun place to work. We're hiring. We're looking for interns.
One quick one before you disappear. You were showing us before that one of your websites got an interesting hit. Could you explain it quickly?
All of them got it. So I know that you talk about politics a lot on this show.
Yeah.
We study data all the time. One of the things, so we have access to probably 500 or 600 analytics, so backs of people's websites. Every single site, whether it's a publicly traded site or a teeny little brand new site that popped up 2 months ago, Google will tell you about the languages that people are speaking that come to the site, like how many people that speak English in the U.S., English in Great Britain, how many people from Russia came, how many people from Spain and France came. Every single one of them, there's a language called secretgoogle.com. You are invited, enter only with this ticket URL, copy it, vote for Trump.
Good. We'll end it right there.
That's
Thanks very much for coming. I know I got educated on this show. I hope you did, and we'll see you at the next show.
Great. Thank you.